Okay.
Alright, hello everyone. Today I'm going to be telling you guys why we need to make recycling greener. So our planet is only getting dirtier, and this is only getting worse as consumerism continues to take hold. So, why do people say that they support recycling and then they don't actually recycle? Well, when you put it on paper, recycling sounds pretty easy. You just separate plastics and glass, right? Well, unfortunately, that's not really the case. We're not adequately providing enough resources towards recycling, and that's part of the reason why a bunch of people have that one person won't make a difference kind of mindset. So recycling should be understandable, accessible, and easy for everybody, because the more people that do recycle, obviously the more that it'll count. So taking action and finding solutions to a big factor in waste will lead to a cleaner, more sustainable environment. And ever since I was a little kid, I've always tried to make a positive impact on the environment. So I believe that through implementing recycling through education and then funding and repurposing will make a difference in the effectiveness of recycling. So why should we even care about recycling? Well, first we need to understand what it is. So there's repurposing, downcycling, and upcycling. With repurposing, that's like taking a glass jar and turning it into a flower vase. It takes the waste out of the cycle altogether. And then there's downcycling, which is like taking a sturdy cardboard box and turning it into a paper bag. That paper bag is more than likely going into the trash because it's hard to turn that into anything else. And then upcycling is where you take a material and recycle it into a material of equal or more value, and that's really the goal. So why should we care? Well, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, together almost 94 million tons of municipal solid waste were recycled and composted, and this is equal to about 32.1% recycling rate altogether. And this may seem like a lot, but it's still not enough, because that means about 68% of recycling never actually sees the process through. And this is where a lot of people get discouraged. So here is this chart, and it shows you how much we are recycling per, I think it's tons. And it sounds like a lot, the numbers sound like a lot, but you see, compared to, say, paper, almost nothing is really getting recycled. And that can all be avoided if people who decided they weren't making a difference started recycling. We could see towards 300 million tons of recyclables per year. And instead, all that waste goes into harmful landfills, which, according to National Geographic, the methane that is released due to the decomposing waste is a potent greenhouse gas that leads to climate change. And not only does that gas harm the climate, but it also will cause respiratory issues in nearby towns and cities. And a lot of these people who live in these towns and cities, they place the landfills where there's not a whole lot of money. So these people, it's hard for them to advocate or move out. And so my next visual aid is what researchers say goes into landfills. And as you can see, a lot of this can be recycled. So a lot of it can be avoided from going into these landfills. And no one wants to live in a polluted environment, so change is going to start in a community who cares. And I understand that human error will always be a factor. Much of recyclables are tossed out due to people putting things in the recyclables that can't go through the process, deeming the whole load contaminated usually. And there's a few ways we could cut down on this unnecessary waste. We could implement recycling in education and workplaces. If we could not only make people aware, but educate them truly on the process and why it's important, then more people would contribute. And if workplaces would pay for recycling and then either encourage or even enforce it, it could cut down on tons of paper and other, like office materials that would more than likely end up in the trash. So the other thing is, recycling isn't totally free, but that money goes into these companies to give them more opportunity to purchase or discover better technology, and hopefully through this technology it'll lower the cost of resources. And a lot of times this funding can't just be done through the community, it also needs to be done by the government, and they're going to have to step up if they want to see nationwide progress. So for example, one argument people like to have is that the CO2 gas from the pickup trucks and the processing plants just eliminates the good that recycling does, but recycling actually reduces CO2 emissions since it doesn't build materials from scratch, and it also just gives less waste to garbage plants. And according to the Environmental Science Center at the University of Colorado, Project Drawdown estimates that recycling between 2020 and 2025 will reduce emissions by 5.5 to 6.02 gigatons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to taking about 1 billion cars off of streets for 1 year. Something that would be effective for the government to implement, though, is all eco-friendly pickup trucks, which would just further cut down on CO2 emissions. Something that needs to see funding for further research, though, is discovering better sorting and cleaning technology, and this will just cut down on the amount of recyclables that end up in landfills. And lastly, the government could enforce a standard for recyclable packaging that is accepted everywhere. Even if it's downcyclable packaging, it's better than nothing. It would immensely decrease the amount of single-use plastics in going into the trash. We need to take action by advocating and integrating these behaviors in these younger generations, because recycling is so important and it benefits everyone since it depollutes our air and uses resources we already have. It's not the most convenient process right now, but that can change as people become more educated and more passionate about making a difference in their community. And it's imperative that we take action in our workplaces, schools, and homes to contribute our part in making a cleaner, more sustainable life through recycling. Thank you.
Thank you.